There is a space in my heart where I find the truth. I find me in you, a truth beyond what you may see now. But when we are one, we bring more good about. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. I see with new eyes, allow and unfold, embrace and let go, trust the flow. There's a freedom in love when you follow your heart. Together we are stronger than we could ever be apart. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here. You are welcome here. Breathe in and out. Slowly feel all that's around you. All that you feel, all that you know. Let it go. Welcome to love. Welcome to peace. Welcome to our community. Be who you are. Let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. Yeah, when we unite. Oh, we unite. Yeah, yeah, when we unite. Yeah, yeah. You are welcome here. Love is welcome here. Peace is welcome here. You are welcome here.
Yes. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, and good day to you wherever you are in the world. Thank you for taking the time to tune in, to listen, and create this space for you to be transformed. Life is all about transformation, you know. Life is committed to transforming you. And there is a time to resist and there's a time to surrender. But when it's time to surrender and you're still resisting, it can be painful. But you get to choose. I am Ade, your transformational beingness artist. Welcome to another episode of Ade Presents Being You, the podcast. The journey back to yourself, back home, right where you are, and so many levels. Just invite you to take a deep breath right now. Don't take it for granted. Just take this moment to just breathe in and breathe out. Let's do it one more time. You just feel so good. Breathe in and breathe out. That is a signal to yourself that you're here for yourself to get exactly what you need to get. And because you know you're here to get what you need to get, what you need to hear, what you need to know, what you need to see and feel, you have to prepare your mind for it. So your mind is like, oh, wait, something new? What is it? But because you're centered, your mind will be like that, like a dog that's been trained. You can say sit, and it just sits there as opposed to jumping on your lap and go, sit. So your mind now, you're in control. And from this place, you can remind yourself that you're present. I am present. I am here. I am now. I am present. I am here. I am now. And I am present. So I want to make sure that sound is going out. That shouldn't be happening. Okay, good. So we got sound. Today is July 26th, 2022. So Tuesday, of course, it's season 4, episode 27. So those of you on IG, thank you for being here. Life Coach Ade's account and the Being You podcast. Thank you. Those of you on YouTube and Facebook, thank you all for being here. Love and appreciate you. Being You is an invitation to come back home, to ask yourself different questions, to see yourself truly, and to know who you are, to remember who you are. Dr. Naim Akbar dropped that the other day, a few weeks ago, and it's just like resonating for me. So I'm going to add that to it. This is about remembering who we are, and it's a journey back to yourself. So as you on that journey back to yourself, you get to ask yourself questions. Who am I? How do I see myself? How do I see the world? How do I see myself in the world? And how do I see the world in me? You do that. That could be a spiritual practice for the next year. I've got a guest in the house. She's my sister. She's my friend. Oh my God, I can't tell you how much I love her. We've been talking. So this podcast started a while back, maybe like Saturday. You're just hearing the rest of the conversation. And I'm happy to share it with you. So, oh my God. I'm going to read a little bit about her in a minute. But I want to tell you that I have an event coming up representing your ancestors. This Saturday, July 30th, this year, 2022. It's 2 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to give you the link. You have all the information you need. The link is bit.ly/your ancestors 4. bit.ly/your ancestors, the number 4. And we're going to use our names, the meaning of names, your name, who gave you the name, what is it about your name, to connect with deeper wisdom, to understand that you have what you're looking for. And the reason you're looking for it is because you have it. If you didn't have it, you won't look for it. So looking for it doesn't make you less. In fact, looking for that thing that you're looking for makes you wise. Like, I know I got it, but I've been conditioned to forget it. Now I'm waking up. And we're going to use our names to go deep, tap into ancestral wisdom, tap into the truth, and remembering our assignment on this planet. bit.ly/your ancestors, the number 4. And I'm doing that in association with letsreimagine.org. Letsreimagine.org. Thank you all for being here. If you haven't shared the show, this is a good time to do it. If you're doing dishes and you're listening, this is a time to just dry your hands on the towel and share the show. Call your folks. Lori, nice to see you. Send a text, share it. Just have people have a conversation. Tell them they're about to have a conversation about the Plantcestors. They'll be like, who? What? Plantcestors, don't worry about it. Just join. Just come on. You'll figure it out. Plantcestors, what the? I don't understand. Well, you will if you log in. You're wasting. I gotta go. And if they come, they need to be here. If not, it ain't for them. But it's all good. It's all good. So I'm going to read a little about I'm going to read her bio, and you will get to catch who she is when you hear her, when you feel her, when you experience her. What I can say is this sister right here, she played a major role in who you're experiencing on a weekly basis, or who I'm experiencing on a daily basis, because she helped me put things into perspective about myself, things that nobody else. In the first visit, she was like, give me reading my you know what, like, how you know that about me? I didn't know. She was like, I see you. So you can't hide, because her truth will reveal you to yourself. I am going to read a little about her, and then I'm going to bring her on, because I'm excited. I'm looking for something else too that I can't find. But anyway, I'm going to let that go. I'm going to release that. I can't find it. Okay. All right. Let me read. Mary Ayodele is a prophetess, herbalist, and cultural preservationist. Now, that's just like, to keep the bio short, she gave herself 3 titles. She is more than the titles. She is a Christian mystic. She is a director, spiritual director. She is a wise woman. She taps in and she listens to deeper wisdom. She doesn't leave home without her ancestors, because she can't, but she listens to them because they're already there. She is the founder of the Institute of Africana Cosmology and Africana folk medicine scholar. She shares the cultural and spiritual importance of plants in African tradition and diasporic spirituality, and their kinship to Native American ethnobotany. I would have said ethnobotany. But thank God for Google. It's like, wait, that's not how you say that. She teaches about the healing wisdom of Africana people worldwide in workshops, lectures, and apprenticeships. She hosts the Facing the Situation, Building Spiritual Resilience Podcast. You can find her, I'll flash that in a minute when I bring her on, her social media handles. On IG, it is prophetess.mary.ayodele. Ayodele is Ayodele. Even if you don't put a dot, IG will help you. On Facebook, she's Lady Mary Ayodele, and her website address is africanacosmology.com. Like I said, don't worry about that. I'm going to flash that in a minute. And I just want to ask you to join me in welcoming my sister, my friend, myself, Prophetess Mary Ayodele. Yay, everybody! The crowd goes wild.
Hey, hello, Akasan. Hello, everybody. I am blessed. Thank you for having me. I'd like to give honor to first the head of my life, the Most High, who brought us all together in this time and space, and all of our spiritual and biological elders who sacrificed for us to have this moment in time with all of these tools that we can share our goodness through. So I'm just incredibly grateful. And thank you, Life Coach Ade, for having me here on your show again. I appreciate you and what you do. And I pray that every word we speak be a blessing into the universe, no matter what time or space they hear this in or hear about this. May it be a blessing. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Amen. And so it is. I share. Woo!
Amen.
I am so excited. I'm so excited. Well, no, I'm gonna say it. I'm excited. But I often, when I have guests, I used to remember when I write a lot of questions just to keep my mind quiet. But I also know that sometimes I can get so caught up in asking, in my experience of the guest, that I may like, okay, what question do I want to ask? Because I know you and people that I'm close to. But when I was thinking of questions I want to ask you, I wrote a couple, maybe 2 or 3. But the rest were just bullet points of stuff. Like this, because I know all I got to do is say it, and you're off. So I'm like, oh, I like this. So what I want to do, the first question I want to ask you really is, being you is about the journey back to self, recognizing, understanding who we are, and more importantly, remembering who we are, because it's a journey back to self. And I believe that our names are very powerful. The names we're given are powerful. Whatever the thought was, maybe it's a combination of our father and our mother's name joined together. However, maybe we end up changing the name. I see it as our soul signature. So the first question is, what is the meaning of your name? What does your name mean to you? Mary Ayodele.
Wow, thank you. Very good question. Throughout my journey, I've been initiated in different systems, African traditional systems, and you get a new name for various reasons. This is one of the times where my birth name, nothing was changed. When I became a prophetess in the CNS order, my birth name didn't change. It was found by the elders there to be just right for what I was doing. So I am named after my great-grandmother, Mary, who was named after her mother, Mary. Her origins, we find, come through the Arab slave trade, then to the Ma'afa. So we find that she comes from East Africa by way of the Arab routes to West Africa to end up here in the United States. I had a spiritual teacher about 30 years ago. And when I told her I was named after my great-great-grandmother, she kind of jumped back and said, that's really powerful. But she wouldn't tell me why. It was one of those journeys where I had to uncover it, right? So later on, I go through lots of things and I find out that Mary is really a title. Even though we think it's the name of Jesus's mother, I go back a little bit further to Kemet, that many people call Egypt, and find out that Mary is a title for the women who worked with the water deities. And therefore, a lot of names that we use as first names, like Candace and Mary, really are not first names. They're actually titles. Some people think Sarah is a title in the Bible. So what does it mean to me? When I reconnected to Christianity, it really solidified that journey of reconnecting to the name on my birth certificate, which came down through my family line, And Ayodele means joy is in the house. And there is joy in my house because what do you say? I didn't inherit that. I would say I was embraced by that name through marriage. So there's all this love and light in both of those names.
Yes.
For me.
Yes. I just love talking with you because I can feel where we're going now, which is, I knew it would happen, but I could feel something. Okay. It's like, okay, we're going to go there. And I find myself getting excited. So let's talk about your journey. You said, when you came back to Christianity, let's talk about your journey because you've been on some journey. One particular word was like, how do you do that? Where do they do that at? How? That must take guts. And how? And I think some people are still saying, how? So tell us about your journey, how you got to this point.
That's a very good question. Well, I was born on a Monday. No, really, I really was. I really was. I was born on a Monday in St. Louis, Missouri, to a, African-American family. I've traced us back 5 generations on one side of my family in this, really both sides in this country. And I've even gone back further, but we've been on this soil, unceded soil. in the Mississippi bioregion, I ought to mention. We were there for some time. And I always wanted to know I wanted to know more about life. So my grandmother from the same side of the Mary name took me to the library when I was 3 years old. And she told me, you can come here and the world will open up for you. She got me my first library card. And she told me some other things that led me to sit here today in my white garment. So what did she tell me? She basically instilled, what do they call it? The acceptance in myself to seek knowledge. She told me about her spiritual experience, which started off with kind of a holiness experience of a lot of expressive movement and noise and music. And she came into New Thought in the 1940s. So she turned me on to Daily Word and would send it to me every year of college, from the time I started college all the way through.
This was your grandmother?
Yeah, my father's mother.
Okay.
My father's mother. I want to give a spiritual shout out to my father's mother, Honey. So for Hun, my grandmother Hun. So because of that acceptance that I could seek, and my father taught me the Bible is history when I was 7, he would get this book that came out then. It was called The Bible is History. And he taught me to see the Bible as history. He didn't want me to be literal. Because of that, I felt encouraged and supported to seek what came beyond the veil. What did we do before Christianity? Many people don't ask that question, or they've been frightened out of looking into it, or, it's all the spookism and history and just don't look. But I kept looking. And in looking, I ended up finding what we were doing, not just before Christianity, but even during Christianity. So I was led back to study spiritual systems out of Central and West Africa, and I really studied. I applied myself. I did all I could. It took me many years to get back literally to the continent of Africa to take a plane over there, but I did all I could on this side of the water. And just when I felt like, okay, I've established my consciousness in this, and the biggest part of it was decolonizing what I had been taught to be afraid of, because I had been taught to be afraid of my Blackness, myself, my womanhood, my language. I've been taught from my hair, my nose, my coloring. I've been taught the internalized self-hatred that a lot of people who look like me are taught around the world, right? So it took time to unlayer that. I had phenomenal experiences before I was doing this intensely, but I was always on the journey. I would try to wear my hair with the standardized systems of beauty of the 1980s and 90s. I tried to go get me a perm, and it didn't work out. Somebody say, get a hairdresser, go every week. I would go every week, didn't work out. Even when I was a little girl, they press and curl it. The back would just not up, didn't work out. And when I came into it just didn't work out, for the standards of westernized beauty, When I came into knowledge of myself through traditional systems, my hair grew so long I could sit on it. I had locks, or as they say in Niger world, dada. I had dada hair, right?
Yep.
Myself showed up, I wouldn't have ever been able to express myself as fully if I hadn't left this soil and consciousness and traveled over that water. Okay, do all that, having a great time, loving what I do. Been blessed to share some of that wisdom with other people who wanted to know it. I'm loving it. There is no doubt in my mind I'm loving it. And then something happens. Well, lots of things happen, but lots of things. I was in the middle of a really serious, for me at the time, a long-term relationship I was in collapsed. They don't collapse all at once. There's signs. It's something like a movie, right? There's a tremble here. Yeah, bricks are coming out, and there's a little crumbling, and finally all the bricks just kind of tumbled down on me. And I was at home feeling very sorry for myself and just feeling miserable, because I thought this was a lifelong relationship. This is where I'm gonna be with this person forever, and I thought that was it. So I'm on my sofa practicing my crying all day, crying and
You said practicing your crying.
Yeah, I was into it. I was deeply involved in this.
You were committed.
I was committed to this misery and suffering, and I didn't know any other way to act it out. I mean, I didn't know how to break up after, over a decade of being. I didn't know how to do it. I think a lot of people don't know how to break up, and that's been a theme in my life, how to let go of things, right? But I didn't know, so I let go with a lot of fanfare. And a shout out to all the people who were healers who stepped forth in my life to get me through that, because some people really came through for me. And I'm on my sofa feeling sorry and sad, and there's a knock at my door, and there's a frantic neighbor who says, something has happened, and we were told to go get the lady who does the African stuff. And I'm like, that's me, right? I didn't know it. Yeah, go get her. Something's happened.
Was this in Texas or was this in Nigeria?
Thank you. Great point. This is like Seattle, Washington. I'm in Seattle, Washington. Okay. And it's 2000 and maybe 9 or 10, maybe 9 or 10, 2009-ish. Knock, knock, knock. And I'm like, oh yeah, what's going on? I finally, wipe the tears, and they come in. They're like, look, a girl here has just hung herself. She's 13 years old, and she's hung herself, and her mother and their family are, they're beside themselves. And we were told to come get you. And I'm like, I don't know. Y'all need to call a church. You need to get you a minister with a Bible. I don't do Bibles, and you need that, And they kept saying, come. And finally the person said, we tried that, but the church people won't come over because we're not members of their church. And they don't know us. And I'm like, what? Because that wasn't the churches I was raised in. I was raised in the church, and the neighborhood comes together around a tragedy. So I get up, pull it together, and I say, okay, well, this is what we got to do. And I gave them like 3 simple things to do. You got to pack this up and move this that way, blah, blah, blah. I come into contact with the family, and the people who sent for me said, okay, we have some other things going on in addition to that. So I'm working with them. And they say, we have these women who just been released from prison, and they come back out into society. They don't have jobs. They don't have job skills. Most of them went into prison in the 90s or 80s because of the drug war, and they were caught up in it. Their children are in the system, and they're living on their relative sofas. And that's a secret, because if we say they're on the sofa, everybody gets put out, because the lease says you can't have people living on your sofa without a lease. So, the system, the beast is set up, right? Where these folks are just
people
all in
to
between
fail.
the cracks.
Yes.
This is horrible. They say, we want you to come out and talk to these women. We have workshops every Saturday. Once again, oh, no. Look at me. I kind of looked a little bit like this, but the headgear was different. But I was in all white. I got these beads on. I have these shrines. This is probably going to scare them. You really should get a minister or, somebody, a usher. I don't know. Somebody who has the Bible for real in their life. They go to church on Sunday. No. We want the lady to do the African stuff. So I come out. I'm the lady who does the African stuff, right? They didn't know how to say what I was doing.
They know what it is. They just know it's the African stuff that she's doing.
Just come and bring it. And I went. And when I walked in, I was struck. The Spirit revealed them to me to be mediums. And I'm like, oh, I'm in a room full of untrained mediums. So I automatically went into how to train a medium. I had created a course about it, Africana mediumship. So I'm going to train them as mediums. And I used the Bible because I couldn't. It's many reasons why they just couldn't do what I used to tell them, y'all can't do what I'm doing. Not that they were incapable. It wasn't that they didn't have the aptitude. But what I was doing at the time was very elitist. And let me explain. It was a bunch of people who had an advanced education, who had passports and money and could go to foreign countries. We were really acting out, a lot of bourgeoisie, I read a book about it and I want to go study it. It wasn't accessible for many people, not the branch I was in, that really didn't have a place to live. You can't say get a passport and a ticket. Many of these people can't get passport. I mean, it just didn't work. So I went back to grandma wisdom. Psalm 51. We start working Psalm 51. I told them all to wear white. They come back in white. And what did your grandma do? Long story short, we moved through that. into places where they found stability. Some of them were able to get their children back. Like they were like, oh, this is marvelous and wonderful. And I'm like, okay. Now I should have known then that I was being told by a higher power that I was going to end up here or back, in connection with the church. I didn't see none of that. All I saw was if I go to church, it's for a wedding, a funeral, or one of my godchildren getting ordained. That's about it. I was done with the church. I was done. I had great people I love who went there, including my mother. And people, it didn't matter. I loved them, but I was done. I wasn't going back. Oh, please. So I wasn't. I mean,
you said this? Okay, oh, please.
No. If you had told me this 10 years ago, I would have been like, yes, okay. Well, Ayodele, it's so good talking to you, honey. It's so good talking to you. I would have loved you through that conversation and closed it with prayer and went right back to my shrines. Right. It was that, I wouldn't have thought anything less or more of you. Just this person doesn't know my path. Yeah. I know my path. I was very spiritually arrogant. And then I end up in Benin, not for the first time. It was not my first trip. And I'm in Benin, the city, in Edo State, doing my thing. And I'm very happy doing my thing. I have no regrets, whatever. And in walks this life that I'm living now. And I was faced with, when you are a spiritualist or spiritually minded or into these things, you get information from people's lips and you get it from spirit. So while we're talking in this show, I get downloads, and I got an instant download in Edo State in Benin City that said, oh yeah, guess what? The Christianity you've seen is not what you think it is. I was taught through the download to remove the white supremacy. If you take out the domination, supremacy, and the oppression, what are you left with? And I was like, whoa. And after that revelation, I ended up reconnecting to Christianity, much to my surprise. That's a long answer. The point was I could not step over my mama, grandma, her mama, and just jump across that water. If you talk in ancestors and you honestly, for those listeners who are already jumping around a little bit, it wasn't worshiping ancestors. You're talking about them. You're learning their stories. You're welcoming their sacrifice and struggle and their joy into your daily life. You're acknowledging their lives. You can't just jump over the ones that are doing something you find inconvenient. It's like vegetarians who don't want to talk to great grandpa who was a pig farmer. I mean, it right. Makes no sense. Just talk out because he ate ribs.
You're a vegetarian because he was a pig farmer, because he lived.
Yes. If he wasn't a pig farmer, there you go. See, I love you. I love you. But a lot of people here, we're caught up in the West. I'm in America right now, talking from Houston, Texas. We think many times that connecting with spirit is our choice. If you have a calling on your life and you don't answer it, your life is going to fall apart. Spirit reaches for you. It's a living intelligence. It's not when you get off from work. When you get paid, you go around and get it, this and that and the other. This ain't based around your paycheck, your job, your time limits, your relationships. Spirit calls you, you better answer. And yes. Spirit called me and I answered. It was one of the most surprising answers I had, but I recognized through the years that I didn't know how to balance my immediate ancestral choices, what my immediate ancestors did, with my more, further back, far-reaching ones. So that's it. I mean, that's a long story, but I even whittled it down to 10% of what it really is. So here I am. I'm a prophetess in the CNS Church, a church based in Benin City. It's Better Covenant CNS Fire Ministry International. And it's a church that my husband is the head of and the founder of. And I'm very thankful for my life, all the twists and turns that I've been able to walk. Yeah, so I hope that's an answer.
That's perfect, because I heard you answer the question. I've been listening too, because I know not listening is a problem, can be a problem. because I want to lay the foundation as we talk about the wisdom of the Plantcestors, and you started to talk about it, and you bring something so unique. And one of the things I love about you, because I feel like I walk that middle ground for me and how I see the world, and I think sometimes, generally, but in the Western world, there's this: you either on this side or that side, but we miss the middle side, which is where everything is happening at once, which is where we can start to see ourselves differently. So for me, it's like, yeah, the story is important. And as we talk about Plantcestors, ancestors, I want to ask you, what is your website? Your school is Africana Cosmology. What is that about? Can you say a little bit about that before we go deeper into the Plantcestors?
Sure. I'm losing your audio a little bit. I'm just going to repeat the question. Were you asking me to speak a little bit about Africana cosmology?
Correct. Yes.
Did you hear me?
Yes, I
Yeah,
did.
thank you. Yeah, our audio is kind of choppy right now.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Africana cosmology was birthed out of my graduate school experience in California, where I was studying the cosmological forces as organized or presented by someone called Brian Swim. Many of you may have heard of him, prolific writer and thinker. I went to a Catholic graduate school, and it was sort of out of the Catholic theological framework, which I have an affinity with. So I began to ask what were the Africana cosmological frameworks. And of course, there were no answers there, but that's why graduate schools give you room to find those answers, right? I was there and encouraged to dig into it. So this was my capstone project, the Institute of Africana Cosmology. I was told to write a thesis, but more than a thesis for me, I'm a practitioner of what I'm talking about. So the Institute was open in September 2006. Africana Cosmology is a collection of wisdom that is distributed around the world through people of African ascent. So not just continental, but wherever we find ourselves, folks who look like me, what are we dealing with? What's our wisdom systems? So it is a cultural preservation project. And I want to thank the elder who helped me name it. My experience is that I do the work, and many times I don't name the work. People show up in my life and say this, that, and the other. And I appreciate all of you with your names that come out of the greater mainstream community, which I'm not really studying what's happening there. Cultural preservation in this context is wisdom systems, nuggets that have been put out there, but maybe not collected in a sense of seeing them in relationship to each other. So on the website, which is more extensively found on Facebook, there's a page that goes back, 16 years on Facebook. That page has information on it of different people around the world who are, again, bringing forth that Africana urban bush medicine, meaning it may not come out of the halls of the mainstream academies, but this is the wisdom of the lived people. And that led me to now where I'm doing doctoral work at California Institute of Integral Studies. And my doctoral work I have collectively called Africana folk medicine, because I couldn't figure out a word to convey to the greater world that I'm collecting this wisdom, not because it's all mine, but because it belongs to all of us and it's valuable. And you don't get it in a weekend workshop. You don't get it because you paid your money and now you get a certificate and you're the expert. It's not consumable like that. If it calls you, it's for you. If it don't call you, that's okay too. And my work now as an Africana folk medicine scholar is to share these stories respectfully, meaning I can't make you into anything. I'm not here to ordain you, initiate you, or crown you king or nothing. That's something different. But I'm here to respectfully share it, and not for the purposes of people to take what they want. There's this comment, sorry, y'all, take what you want and leave the rest. Ooh, it's a little colonizing up in there. I'm kind of that's kind of happened. That's why I'm kind of sitting here in Texas, right? So I'm a little cautious of taking what you want and leaving the rest. Anyway, that's not what I'm about. Okay. I'm about respecting all of it and sharing the awareness of it. So that's what Africana cosmology is. And you may find me sometimes saying I'm an Africana cosmologist because I soak that wisdom. Well, I expose myself to that wisdom and I appreciate it. And I pray that every day I'm being more and more respectful of it. I don't own it and I can't give it to you, but I'm so thankful it's there for us to view and understand, which goes back to your first question. What were we doing before Christianity? So, yeah.
Yes, which is whew. Okay, let's keep going. If you're just joining us, my guest is Prophetess Mary Ayodele. You can find out more about her by going to her website, africanacosmology.com. She's on Facebook at Lady Mary Ayodele, Ayodele. And she's on IG, Prophetess Mary Ayodele. And we got a lot to talk about, so I'm going to keep moving. So let's talk about our plantcestors, herbs and trees and plants and flowers and ferns. Some of the things that we just ignore sometimes that actually help us in sustaining our life. Let's talk about your passion, your curiosity to learn more from our plantcestors. What was the catalyst, and what have you learned from them that we also that you want to share with us, so we can choose, not take how do you say, take some and leave the rest, but be able to learn and grow our connection with our human ancestors. You still have a delay.
Thank you for that question. I love the way you phrased it. I love it. I love you. You really encapsulated it. We live with plants. I avoid as much as possible saying I can use echinacea, I can use peppermint. Well, let's kind of rewire our programming of domination, because we are programmed, we're indoctrinated with a lot of dominant ideas of taking what we want and leaving whatever, right? You can live with plants. Plants are alive. Let's start there, because some people forget that. They're living, just like your aunt, your cousin, your baby, your husband, your wife, or they're alive like a dog or cat. And we want to relate to them as life forms, which can bring a new idea to you when you bless your food. Blessing the food now is kind of, you go push through it and okay, bless the food. But you're really looking at these life forms that have sacrificed themselves, or you have sacrificed, so you can sustain your life on this planet. So the first thing I'd like to share with people is that we live with plants. They're not here for us to use only. Yes, we utilize them and work with them for our well-being. But if humans disappear tomorrow, these trees going on. The trees ain't dependent on us. We dependent on them. Right. So we need to kind of get this right relationship in order here, because we tend to get a little caught up with the dominant model, right? And for those of you who went to those halls of higher learning, yes, I know Genesis says that we are here to subdue the earth. I would challenge that translation. Please take it back a few steps, because we want to be careful of this submission thing we're into, in my opinion.
Say more about that. Say more about that. Say more about that. Let's go there. Let's say more about that.
I would encourage everybody to dig into, if you are of the Judeo-Christian walk, to dig into your faith. And that doesn't mean for me arguing with Pastor and how come he ain't talking about Africa. I don't mean the arguments that people have unfortunately been kind of conditioned to think, if I'm bringing it up, then I'm doing something. Bringing it up is, excuse me, everybody, when we eat something that doesn't agree with us, we bring it up. That doesn't mean you done what you need to do with that item in your body. So bringing it up, this emotional vomiting we do on people, that we think, well, I'm going to raise the question and then I'm just going to sit down, starting arguments and feeling that you've to the top of that mountain. We've kind of brought that to a place in our culture where we think that's the end of it. I brought it up. Well, I'm going to challenge us all to move beyond bringing it up like a cat brings up a hairball. Maybe we can move beyond bringing it up into stepping into the learning of it. So please look into your translations. Most of you know that the King James Bible comes from the Greek. We'll go before the Greeks. Ask yourself if Yeshua, who y'all call Jesus many times, we all do, call him Jesus. Ask, why did I call him Yeshua? Did he speak Greek? He was speaking Aramaic. Ooh, isn't that interesting? What might this have said in Aramaic or Hebrew? With Google, you don't have to go to the library. Like my grandmother took me to a building. I think y'all can all go there if you want, depending on where you live with the COVID thing, but Google it and dig into your translations. For example, the Lord's Prayer is so expansive and magnificent when you see it outside of the English language. Please dig into it. There's so much we've lost by accepting what's in front of us now. Our ancestors may have been constrained very differently for many reasons in different places, but we on this podcast, if we here, we have resources that look like magic. The resources of today look like witchcraft 100 years ago. We're talking to a box that's this big across thousands of miles. Our day is in London. I'm in Houston. We're in real time. Y'all can join in. So use what is in front of us with the awareness that it came with great sacrifice. Then drop using it and embrace it. Dig into your translations, please. So that whole thing in Genesis about, okay, we done made everything over 6 days. We're not, well, the Elohim is we. Elohim means ancestors. Look it up. Look up the Hebrew meaning of Elohim. Many people have been taught it's the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. I'm not going to argue with y'all. God bless you. Go on, Elohim means ancestors. Subduing doesn't necessarily mean what we see around us, where we lock dolphins up in pools and make them jump through hoops for our entertainment. It doesn't mean making a zoo. People used to be in the zoo, y'all. And I'm talking just barely over 100 years ago. There were people zoos. So think about the ghettos of today. Maybe it's another version of a zoo. Maybe that's why there's redlining. Maybe that's why people can't get loans to get out of those environments, because, it's a soundbite for somebody to fly over in a helicopter and look at the natives. Oh, look how poor they are. So be careful of boxing things in because it's convenient for you to see it. Maybe go to where they naturally from, go to their habitat, wherever that is, and see them in their realness. Submission, big thing. Plants, live with them, plant them. If you can't plant them, because there's all these reasons I get, there's containers. I'm looking at 3. You see one behind me? That's a little pot right there. It's a real plant. Put up pictures of the plants that are healing to your soul. You don't have to drink it or boil it or fry it up or chop it up and chew it. You can live with something without killing it and eating it, and it can help you. It's amazing what it can do. And for people who have allergies or strange situations where you can't have a living thing around you, first I would ask you to reconsider what you just thought. I can't have a plant. Really? Wow. What's up with that? Get a picture. I'm not judging it. I'm just saying, look at your life, and also think about pictures, and artificial plants do have a place. I would just encourage you not to do potpourri. I think that's a little old fashioned now, but those of you of a certain age know what potpourri is. You're not trying to have plants, you know what I'm saying? But you want, nice silk plants are good. The healing energy of a tree comes through if you watch it on TV. If you put on a video of a river flowing, you should ask yourself why. Why is it you can look at a scene from nature and everything come down? So our plantcestors are still here with us. They predate human, or Homo sapiens at least. They're not going nowhere. We can push buttons or jump up and down and set stuff on fire. Whatever we're doing, we are not going to be able to destroy the plant kingdom. I think it's a fallacy to think humans are so powerful they can destroy the earth. That's a really
it's a fallacy.
It's a weird psychosis that we can just blow it up. Okay, well,
yes,
deal with that. And the plants are here for us. They really are. If you look at your faith outside of, Judeo-Christianity, any faith, there's going to be most faiths of Native people. There's a tree. There's a tree of life, or there's a plant, the lotus flower. There's something alive that's not human and not an animal that factors into the narratives of Buddhism, of Christianity, Islam, Judeo, Jewish thought. So what is my point? The plants are bigger than us. They're here for us. We can relate to them differently than consumption. And if you are attracted to one, bring it home and talk to it and make friends with it and see where it takes you, and it can take you far. The last thing I want to say for those who are spiritually minded, looking for a little more nugget, if you have someone come up in your house or even your office, because this works in offices too, and they bring the funk. They bring not the P-funk that you can dance to, but the funk you want.
They bring the F-funk.
Yeah, not the P-funk, but the other one, like, woo, they're dramatic. They bring the wahala. They bring trouble and confusion. I really need this person to quit coming to my office with these problems that are not problems, and they don't like the fact that your office is bigger than theirs. There's all these interpersonal things you get in the workplace. Also, if you are a lawyer or a social worker, people or parole officer, people are coming through your life with serious issues. Many of them are ancestral. So I've met people who were third generation born in prison. Their grandmother was born there, their parents were born there. I was like, whoa, blew my mind, right? If you're dealing with people like that as part of your workday or part of your service to humanity, you're going to need to take some extra steps for your spiritual well-being. And it isn't because they're bad people. It's because the spirits with them are very demanding and of attention. So my point is, you can put plants in your environment, and when something comes through your environment that isn't good for you, you can look at your plant, a healthy plant that's been healthy for 6 months. As soon as them folks leave, within 24 hours, the leaf will turn brown and fall off. Like, what happened? What's going on with that?
Right.
So that is really the truth. Plants are our spiritual alarm systems as well, if you understand how to relate to them that way. They can be many things. So I want to leave that with you.
Yeah. There's so many things that you said there, like, oh, I want to go back to that, I want to go back to that. But as you told, I have a plant on my windows, a succulent, and I had to repot it recently. And it was while I was repotting into it's already in a bigger one, but I realized when I bought it, it was in a very tiny one, and it was leaning to the side. And what I did was, when I put it back on the window, I turned the part that was leaning, I turned it back. So it basically has this kind of like it has its back to the sunlight. And I looked at it today, and it's moved the other way. And for me, it's just like, sometimes we see plants or trees, and we just think, oh, just a tree. We take them for granted because we've been disconnected, or like you said, we feel like we can subdue the earth, dominion over the earth. But they are living beings that can tell us, show us how not to bend, but to just gently yield towards the light. So we are not, even when we're depressed, maybe sunlight can help us. They're reminders of our connection to the earth. There's something you said that I want to go to, and I want to connect it to the ancestors. Now, I'm going to show this. This flashed my mind, came across my mind today, popped in my mind when, just as I was waiting for the show. Let me see what Candace is. Candace said, very interesting, because the co-workers are some interesting characters.
Yeah, they are.
Flood your office with some plants to help you move the energy out. I want to. Oh gosh, I'm gonna have to figure out to do this. I forgot I haven't done it on StreamYard. But what I wanted to say is,
thank you.
I'm doing this ancestral work now, more deeper. And what I'm recognizing is, we say God. Some people say God is the infinite, And when we think of ancestors, hold on, I'm multitasking over here. Are you all right over
It's
there?
okay. Me too. Yeah, I got to plug in my computer. Sorry, y'all.
Right. I figured that was good. What's going on? I was like, oh, wait a minute. I'm actually going to see if I can
Thank
pull
you.
this up because it will make more
Okay.
sense. Some of my listeners have seen this, and I don't normally do, but I think it would be good. I don't know if I've shared this with you before, but it is. Okay, here we go. I am going to minimize this. Okay, it's blocking my view. Those of you in IG, unfortunately, won't see, but you can catch it. Let's see if I go here. Share slide, share screen. All right, bear with me. I'm experimenting on the spot window. Where you at? Where you at? Okay. Because I think I just feel like if people see it, here we go. I think. Let me try something else. Because when you said Elohim means ancestors.
Yes.
That took me out. Actually, because
Yeah,
while I'm pulling this up, hopefully I can do it so people can see what I'm saying is when we think of the image I'm trying to show you is basically shows the numbers of those who came before us, up to 12 generations.
Oh, yeah.
So it has parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, and it has the numbers there. It's not that we don't know, but there's something about seeing those numbers. And so if we keep going back and keep going back, the numbers multiply, and eventually we get to a place where basically we reach infinity.
Yes.
You can't count them. You can't count your ancestors. And through doing this work, it occurred to me, it's like, oh, so when we say God is the infinite, what we're really saying is what we're calling God is a combination of all of our ancestors and everything, every living being. And so the ancestors take you into infinity, and we say God is the infinite. Connecting to your ancestors is connecting with God, with the divine, and all that wisdom that is passed on that we can access, whether it's through plants, whether it's through human ancestors. It's available to us. It's available to us. I heard someone recently give an analogy of the importance of connecting with your ancestors. It said, imagine you're a computer that's not on the internet. And so the computer that's not on the internet, you can do so many different things with it. But the minute you connect your computer to the internet, now you have access to all this other wisdom and intelligence and history and people giving you all information. That's simply what it is. It's an unconscious thing where we open our minds, our heart to so much more than what we've been taught, what we've been told, where we can see the truth and recognize the lie. So I'm going to still try to see if I can pull this up because I would like people to see it. But I want you to say some more about Elohim means ancestors and anything else. Because I know I don't have to ask you a specific question. I just need to tease it up, and then you'll be dropping. Like, ooh. So Elohim means ancestors. Speak on that, please, some more.
Okay. In Hebrew, the language. So, most of our Bibles go back to Greek, and the buck stops there. This is translated from the Greek, blah, blah, blah. That's beautiful. But go back before the Greek. Just keep going back. And when you look at Hebrew, and you can do this through books for people who are too busy and, all that. You can do it through books. You found it. Hey, here we go.
Oh, you found it? Yes. Let's see if I can maximize it. Because I want you to say it. There you go. So for me to be here, for you to be here, when you look at those numbers, like first we need up to parents, right? And then you go back grandparents. And these numbers will keep going back and keep going back. I don't know. Can you hear me right? Because it's music.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good.
Yes.
So if we go 12 generations, I don't know why this bottom part. Let me see if I maximize it, if that makes a difference. I don't know. But if we go 12 generations back, it took 4,096 people to come together for me to be here, for you to be here, for each of us to be here. And that's just 12 generations back. So if we keep going backwards, all these people that came together that passed life on to us. So when we recognize that connecting with ancestors, they're there. Not only are they there, they live in us and we live as them.
Yes.
And it's
Yes.
like, it's a simple truth. You said something in our conversation earlier today. If you want to hide the truth, I don't want to throw you off the conversation about Elohim and ancestors, but you said, I think this is good for public conversation. You said if you want to know the truth, I can take this off now. If you want to know the truth, hide it in plain sight. I was like, ooh, ooh. I'm going to come back and ask you a question about that. See, I get excited when we talk. But let's talk about the Elohim, meaning ancestors. You were talking about the Hebrew tradition.
No problem. Elohim means ancestors in the Hebrew tradition. Now, whenever we start talking about Hebraic things and Judaic things and Christian things, there's a bunch of people who want to fight. I don't fight over it.
Why do Christians like fighting and defending?
I don't know. And defending
and
their
people want to fight
interpretation.
Christians. It's like, it's okay.
Exactly. Very disruptive, you know. Even though the scriptures say we serve a God of order, you get the Tower of Babel when you start talking about these translations. So I am not here to promote any particular translation or any particular church, or I'm not recruiting. I'm not, I'm not the armed forces. You ain't got to sign up. Spirit recruits you. I promise you, when you are called, you will know it. And if you don't answer, you gonna know it. So Spirit recruits you, not me. The divine intelligence that holds all this together, including this conversation, is more than capable of letting you know when you need to turn to the left or right. I don't need you to feel like, you need to fight me over a word. However, you can look it up through Hebraic scholars of the Hebrew language, and that's where you want to look. If you look at people's individual feelings, you're going to get the answers of their feelings. But the Hebraic language says Elohim is ancestors. I mean, there's a lot there in the biblical text. When they quote the lineage of Yeshua, who we are called Jesus, they go back, he's from the line of David, and they go through all these names, right? Why would they do that if it wasn't important? How come he didn't just pop up and do what he wanted to do and say what he wanted to say? They are verifying his pedigree. Even Mary on her side of the family, she's descended from so-and-so and so-and-so. So your pedigree, your ancestry is vitally important. And I find it interesting that you cannot have this conversation with people who don't speak to their parents, or people who stop speaking to their grandma because she didn't come to their graduation, or she wants them to wear longer skirts. So the disruption, you have living ancestors that people can't stand to be in the room with. So looking for the dead ones when you ain't talking to the living ones, the dead ones will lead you back to the living ones. Like, you got to work this stuff out. And I love telling people, you can work it out while you have a human body and they have a human body, or you can work it out when they don't have human bodies anymore. The point is, like the Course in Miracles say, the point isn't if you go do the course. You might get to choose when, but you go do that course.
But you're going to go through that course. You're going to do it.
Do this. So while they have human bodies, if you're mad at mama because she didn't like it that you didn't marry a man, you married a woman, whatever it is, please look into this wonderful host here, Life Coach Ayodele. He has beautiful things to say about forgiveness. It is not just a catchphrase, because you gotta dig in, because you're doing work that affects generations. Even if you don't have children, you're doing work that affects generations. It's not your personal feelings, and I'm not going to talk to her. So my point about, it's hard to look at ancestors if you're not speaking to your mama's sister. I mean, she's a living part. I mean, we're talking just the two people who came together to make us, but their brothers and sisters are important too. That's so the disruption starts now at the super psychotic emphasis on independence. I don't need nobody. I can do it on my own. And I understand where that comes from, because I'm part of this living history experiment that happened over here in the West, right? So I know why folks can be super independent. I'm very independent. I also know that's a secular response. Spiritually, we're interdependent. We're interconnected, man. And to miss that means so many people are missing their blessings because they're locked in these boxes of what they can do on their own. And they're missing the blessing that may be right next door with the neighbor, just by opening their mouth and asking. So connecting with the 4,000 starts with you connecting with the one who maybe you haven't called in 2 years. It helps just to, Just call and say hi. You don't have to move in with them. But that westernized idea of I don't need nobody and I'm estranged from my family can have really big spiritual repercussions. And I think we're seeing the seismic effects of that in these strange things that are happening, these random bursts of violence. And I'm not saying those people are disconnected from their families, but what happens to my neighbor affects me. We're really not separate. So believing that what I do is all about me and doesn't affect our day is crazy. And we're seeing these seismic ripples of strange events from people who I'm sure are affected by ancestral echoes. That's what I call them. The ancestral echo shows up and we're like, what is that? You know, where did that come from? So I would encourage everybody, even if, you know, you have these reasons and okay, write a letter, work it out in your heart. You don't have to do it on your own. You can work it out through the powers that are higher than us, the higher powers, because otherwise we're going to keep in this cycle of, well, Wahala. Wahala means trouble, everybody. Wahala and drama.
And you know, that's one thing that I'm always saying is like, yes, there are people we can see that is causing the wahala. However, there is an energy that wants to be healed, that wants to be acknowledged. But because we're not, because we end up in blame, shame, and criticizing, that energy is like, no, hold on. I just need to be seen. I just need to be in the light so I can be free. Because when we don't focus on that energy, however we need to do it, getting help, getting support, reading about it, that energy itself is just, it's constantly looking for an outlet. And somebody who matches that energy from a lower expression, lower vibration, can be the channel. It's like, we don't know what happened. They just sort of lost it suddenly because the energy itself is low vibration that is looking for higher vibration. The energy that's passed on from the ancestors is looking for an outlet to be free, so we can transform that energy. So those of us who are say we're spiritual, we understand it's our responsibility to bring love to it. It's like fire. No matter how cold something is, if you put fire to it, eventually it's going to melt, it's going to change temperature. And we have a responsibility. So white supremacy is part of that energy that wants to be healed. We call it out, we say what it is, and we got to transcend the BS that brought it about. If we keep matching the BS that brought it about, we are not going to heal that energy because we get so caught up and keep saying white supremacy, and we miss the colonization that brought this about. It's like that brought this about. And like in UK, they get to be quiet, low key, like, you know, and they're doing all kind. In Europe, France, they get to be low key because we just talk about white supremacy, America, white supremacy, America. No, this is a global thing.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And the healing of that isn't our responsibility only, in my experience. It is the responsibility of everybody affected by it and not affected by it.
Yes.
I went on a beautiful pilgrimage this month with a Korean lady, beautiful pilgrimage, and I was exposed to their cosmology. And she talked about Chinese imperialism. I'm like, wait a minute. Wait, Chinese colonization took me over here because my experience in the West is always, you know, the black, white. But she talked about Korea being invaded by the Chinese and Japanese. And I said to her in the middle of the pilgrimage, I have to go educate myself now because when you say colonization, I'm automatically grounded in this place I'm standing on. But they have 3 layers of colonization: Chinese, Japanese, and European. Whoa, that's deep to me. So everybody's journey is connected. And I think some people bristle when we talk about the healing of white supremacy as if it's on the shoulders of the brown and red and yellow people.
Right.
But it's on the shoulders of the white folks too. It's
even more so.
Yes, definitely. There's things we can't do for other folks. And I think the acknowledgement that white supremacy is a spiritual issue can go very far in dealing with it, because the healing may not look like, how can I put it? It may look different. That word healing brings up certain images for people that convey a non-activity model of turning the other cheek and
Spiritual
so forth and
bypass.
so on. Yeah, spiritual bypassing. But the healing may look very different. I know my mother healed me a lot when she took away my toys and told me I couldn't do something until I did what she wanted me to do. I mean, I learned by the modeling of the adults around me, and they weren't giving me what I wanted. Many times I didn't get, and I still don't get what I want, but there's healing in that.
Yes.
So I just want to say to the people who are like, oh no, what do you mean healing? It doesn't mean passing out cookies and snacks. It may mean folks going home without a cookie and a snack until they get it. You know? So don't think we've lost our minds over here. Like, oh yeah, we're just gonna go and pat people on the head. But
sometimes it may even mean, no, you don't get to get a cookie right now. We need to give it to this people. So it's all about equity. True. You got enough cookies at home. Go back home. You live a block away and get your own cookies. But this one is for these folks over here. Yes.
That's true. Redistribution of the cookies. We could have a whole show about that. Ooh, how we go redistribute these cookies, and then somebody go say, y'all don't need no cookies. It's too much sugar. And the whole role that sugar played in the slave trade, right? Let that go. I used to think, a very special friend of me once said, if Black people in America understood the pivotal role, really in the Americas, including the Caribbean, if they understood the role of sugar in the enslavement, would we still eat it? And I'm always caught to the linguistic connection of sugar in the blood and the rate of diabetes in the Black community. And I really want to look at that. Are we naming something that is there subconsciously that we haven't been able to get out otherwise? But sugar is I mean, that was the money maker. Sugar, rum, and molasses that got many people who look like me over here. So yeah, I just went on a branch, and I'm okay with that. But I just went on a branch. I'm gonna live with that. It's okay. It's okay. But yeah, the cookies, the sugar, it's a real big thing. We got to look at. Yeah, healing is for everybody, and it's not just white supremacy, because I can assure you behind white supremacy, there was something else. Everything has a precursor. So we really don't want to lift up and center systems of oppression as if there's only one, because there's many. And when you dismantle one, many places for that to run and hide. So Elohim, back to your point of questioning, is a Hebraic word I encourage everyone to look into. You may find different definitions. Look into the scholarship. That really helped me to get out of the evangelical literal belief writers and go to the people who do it. That means studying it as scholars. It was very helpful, because that area of belief can sometimes be like a blinder where people don't want to see certain things that don't fit their belief. And my spiritual journey has been facing a whole lot of stuff that don't fit my beliefs. Trust and believe. There we go. I face every day something I don't believe in. So that's the key to freedom, is to face what you don't believe in and be willing to, in my opinion, to examine it.
Be willing to examine it, interrogate yourself, and know that what you know, that there is something before what you know.
Yes,
and there's something before that. Whatever name you want to call it. New Thought, what is it? Swindenberg? I can't remember the first name. We call him the father of New Thought. But before him, there was something else. You know, before Christianity, there was something else. Before the Muslim religion, there was something else. And it's how far, if we just follow our ancestors, and then we start multiplying the numbers of how many came before us, not leaving out their brothers and sisters, their siblings or people that they know, but just if we just say, well, the ones that came together for us to be here, think of what kind of language do they speak? Where do they live? You know, what do they look like? What did they do? What did, my great, go 100 generations back. What did my great grandfather, what did he do as a 4-year-old? How did he see the world? To go back to really things that we don't think about on a regular basis. It helps the mind to stretch and see something different. I want to share some comments in the chat. Okay. Candace earlier was talking about coworkers. when we talk about having a plant in the office, and I think she said, "I may need a tree." I saw it earlier. And then there's a comment from Kwali. She said, "I just found out a sister of mine is not blood relation."
Mm-hmm.
Whew, that's a shift in the web. But I know she is a part of my soul family. Me and my other siblings know and have claimed that she is a part of our soul family. And we will always be sisters. Because it's true. We're always brothers and sisters and connected. And then Kwali also said, indigenous peoples of Americas and Canada were colonized. Yes, indeed. Look at what the Pope just did. Yeah, I think the Pope is in Canada apologizing for something. I haven't read the story, but I saw a headline today. Do you know?
Yeah, he apologized for the indoctrination centers they call schools, where they would force the children to go, and they died there, and they buried them there and hid it. They were busy literally eradicating them as fast as they could through these schools, where they would change their names and not let them speak their language. And it was highly institutionalized. So he's apologizing. I will stop talking about that here and now. Okay. As far as people who are not our blood relations, we make family. We make family. When I mention my other names besides Mary, when I was practicing traditional religion, I was adopted spiritually into the families that brought me into that walk. Like if they initiated me with their permission, I was able to take what we think in the West as a last name. That's something the people in the West may want to study, what a last name really is. Like we condense it to John Smith, but it may have meant his great-great-grandfather was a blacksmith. But we just make it convenient because we want to keep you in that machine. Just go to work, come home, pay bills, go to work, get a credit score. But if you look at not just what your first name means, thank you, Life Coach Ayodele, not just your first name, but your last name. In the English world, speaking world, it really used to say something about where you were from or what you were doing.
Your family, your tribe, the culture, the warriors in your family, what they did. Yeah.
What you were good at, people who are not blood relations to me that I can demonstrate within, 10 generations or even 4 generations, we still make family where we go. And we should know that very well in the West, where we were forced into that, and it works just fine. And that's a very controversial position in certain spiritual circles, but it is a reality. You could say Joseph did it with Yeshua, if you want to think about it that way. So, I mean, hey, it rolls like that. Moses did it with his folks. If you need a biblical reference, Candace, yes, there are, if you can't have a living plant, there are pictures you can put up in your workspace for decoration that are decorative, and they can also help modulate vibrationally what you are experiencing there. Please, with Life Coach Ayodele's permission, I would ask you normally to reach out to him and he'll give it to me, or if it's okay with him, you can write me directly. But yeah, I'll be glad to give you some specific. Okay, for those of you who may be listening, like, what are these plants? Depending on your situation at work, I talked about lawyers, social workers, and parole officers. That would be very different from someone who's a teacher or a person who works at a bank maybe. But one of them that would be very good to have around you, mints are always good. Many people don't think of them as protective, but I will tell you, mint can be your friend. Peppermint, spearmint, that kind of plant, a picture of that as well. You don't have to go into the hardcore, you don't have to put up High John the Conqueror root, but if you needed to step into that kind of protective energy, you could think about morning glory. You could put up pictures of that. Be very careful of your colors, not in a negative way. Every year I put out a forecast that the Most High has given to me. And this year for 2022, I do have a plant listed that is significant to those of us living on the planet right now. You could put a picture of that up. It's a particular flower. But for protection, I would encourage you to look at morning glory and go with a white one if you're in a place of white or purplish blue. But each individual person is having an individual experience. If you want to check in with me about that, I am really open to that. And I'm okay with you writing me And, Brother Ade will give you the contact for that. And I'll be glad to kind of tweak it for you. But those are some good general things to have around, especially in workplaces where folks are flipping upside down every 15 minutes. It's helpful.
You just exposed me. You just exposed me. Can you hear me?
Yes, now I can. Yes.
You just exposed me as a plant snub, because I'm like, a picture? I don't want no picture. I want the real thing. But it's true, because
that's good.
That's only in the mind where we think that's a picture, because the eyes are translating it and we know what it is. I mean, there's a tree right outside my window. I can look at it when it's windy, and just looking at it, a picture of a tree. I've walked into places and say, oh my God, look at that tree. And it still has the same effect. But the idea of putting a tree up instead of a plant picture up was like, what? But now you've decolonized my mind as it relates to Plantcestors. So thank you very much. So I want to share something. Dr. Naeem Akbar said, dominance rather than sharing sounds like the precursor of white supremacy, sexism, and many other forms of oppression. Begins with misreading of Genesis, as you pointed out. Yes.
Thank you.
I want to dominate the earth and dominate and dominate and dominate. What you want to say about that?
Spirit gave me a message about 20 minutes ago, and of course I branched and I went about that message. Thank you for that comment. That for people who need the text to be there for them in a certain way, we could step into a new thought atmosphere where each animal and each plant that is made on those 6 days could represent parts of the human self. So instead of really going out to dominate a cow or a horse, you could dominate the energies within yourself that may mimic their uncontrolled actions. Now, I have to be very careful, because the Western conversation is about animals are lower than people and we're at the top of the food chain. So I really want to be cautious of saying that there's an animal nature you have to subdue. There's a lot of patriarchal entanglement in that, and I don't want to step in that pool of poo-poo, but it's a pool of poo-poo. So I'm not saying that there's an animal nature of the flesh and lust, and you must overcome it in order to ascend to heaven. There's a lot of woman-hating, female-hating. There's a whole bunch there. But the divine feminine is real, and is here right now. It ain't going nowhere. She's showing up, and she out of bubble gum. And she may be doing some spanking, okay? So I just want you to know the divine feminine is real. So rather than say you have to overcome the animal self or the world is an illusion, Maya, that whole Buddhist idea, it's an illusion and you're here to overcome the world. I think we need to dig into those understandings as well. What did overcoming the world really mean? Did it mean giving up sex and food that tastes good forever because women are evil and sex is wrong and food that tastes good is evil? We got to look at that. And what I want to say for people who are still struggling to learn more, and not even struggling, people who are seeking, let me use that word. Please think about the 6 days of creation being 6 aspects of the self, and the idea of domination being for you to be aware of who you are, to know thyself. So you don't have a sad story like, I don't know why I stole that from Walmart. Something came over me. That can't be you anymore. You got to know what's in you and what's around you. Nothing comes over you where you lose yourself in the moment. We could explore it that way, but we're still talking duality. And that's a reductionist idea in patriarchy. I mean, that everything comes down to 1, 2, 1, 2. I know binary code and all that and the making of human beings, but that duality in many respects, I would propose, is a reductionist aspect of the rooting of patriarchy, that there are multi levels of experience and understanding and smell, taste. I say it this way. Did God make one flower? No. We have roses, and we have different varieties of roses. We have daisies and morning glories and tulips. So why wouldn't we think spirit be as much as that, be as multifaceted. Our eyes are giving us as above as below, right? We're seeing these physical representations of spirit. I don't look like Brother Ade. He don't look like, Brother John. We're all these, our fingerprints are different. So I'm careful of the yin yang duality being the foundation of a conversation. And sometimes I think we've reduced it to that because we keep making it easier and easier. We keep lowering the knowledge level to try to convey this wisdom. And at some point, some people want a little more meat, and we're still talking black, white, up, down, left, right. And I'm like, maybe we got to put down the preschool, put down your blocks, your ABCs. Let's put some words together, right? So what does that have to do with anything? My point being, you can look at these 6 days as aspects of the self, not for you to master and overcome, but for you to embrace with love. And if you feel lust or you feel gluttony, you want to eat double portions, but you're already full, to love that emptiness in you that's seeking to be filled with more sex, more food, more TV, more movies, more shoes. I have enough shoes, but I got to go to the mall every week and buy more. Look at that emptiness and what is it seeking for real? Because you can't fill it with more food and more shoes. It really is asking for more love. So maybe look at that for those folk who really need the 6 days to mean something at the end of it. Lastly, those 6 days come out of a colonized, the Hebrew people were colonized, they were displaced a lot, right? That's part of the big story for that. And those 7 days come out of Babylon. So I asked myself the question, okay, the Hebrew people had to go to Babylon. They kind of lost the war. They were conquered. And many of them, and this is the royal family story we get in the Bible, they were moved to Babylon. Babylon and Samaria have a 6-day creation story, or 7-day. I wonder what the creation story would have been prior to their enslavement. So we're reading a story by people who were kind of displaced and colonized. And as they went around, they kept picking up stuff. That's why you keep hearing them say, no God before me, because folks were doing what they were doing, right? If they were monotheistic, they wouldn't have to keep reminding them of that. You don't have to, like, I don't need to be reminded I'm married. I know I'm married, but they keep saying it over and over and over. So there were a bunch of reforms that you read about, but they kind of gloss over on Sundays. Many times King Josiah tore down the ashram and he burned the effigies. And I'm saying, dig deeper. What was the Hebraic calendar, or what was the creation story? It may be lost to time and propaganda by now, but the 7-day week is not a Hebraic conceptualization necessarily. It's something that was picked up. And if you want to know more about it, in the Sabbath, look in the Sumerian text, and they have beautiful Psalms, by the way. So anyway, I dig deeper. That's my point. I'm encouraging you to dig deeper. And if you need to dominate something, replace that word when you can with embracing it. Let me embrace these things with love instead of, think about that. Hopefully,
Yes.
hope it works for you.
Yeah, so I have one question I wanted to ask you, but what you just shared now made me want one. So here's the thing that's happening for me. I want to share a comment by Dr. Naeem, which is perfect to what you just said. And then when you talked about something you said that made me think, time. Well, final thing I want to talk about time, but I don't know if we have enough time, but we're going to make time because we're going to talk about time. People not having time.
Okay.
Then it made me, something else you said made me think of the conversation we had about loneliness and neediness. I don't know if we have time to do it because and maybe we can get to it. I can hear the judgmental me. If you shut up and ask the question, you will have time to talk to me.
No,
but that's the judgmental part of me, and I'm going to love it.
There you go.
So this is what Dr. Naeem posted. He said in the chat room, he said, domesticate is a form of cooperation rather than domination. This sounds like the kind of mastery that you are talking about. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Do you want to say anything else to that before I come up with all the other 50,000
I
questions?
appreciate that. Thank you. That's what I was saying earlier. Thank you, Dr. Akbar, that people from the outer world will experience me in different places and times, and they bring me their wisdom words because I'm a practitioner first, and then the scholar in me is next. So I don't always take on the word first. I can't describe it better than that, but I hope you vibe with me. So thank you for that, because I will pray and embrace the word domesticate, because that still has an idea of soothing a wild thing, right? And I'm all about that wildness. I think the wild, I have a site actually called Wild Patch Gardening, where I teach a gardening method where you leave a patch to just go wild. You don't cultivate it, you don't weed it, you just let it be itself. I think domesticate takes me one step closer to finding the words in English to describe this reality that's been revealed to me. And I love that word. So thank you for helping me understand what I've experienced in a new word. Yeah.
Yes, Dr. Akbar have a way of doing that. I did a show one day, well, actually a few weeks ago, 3 weeks, 4 weeks ago, and I called it something about belonging. I can't remember it. So, and then I thought I could have called it unbelonging, and the pandemic of belonging. And so I was going through it, and I kind of linked it to the pandemic that we don't always talk about. And towards the end of the show, Dr. Akbar said, so the vaccine for the pandemic of belonging or unbelonging is to remember who you are.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah.
Yes.
Excellent.
It was just,
yes.
It's like everything I was saying was just summarized in one statement.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Excellent. Thank you again, Dr. Akbar and Brother Ade, for bringing that forth, because I can't see their comments. So thank you.
Yes. Yeah. What I want to talk to you about, see if we can squeeze in a few more minutes, if you don't mind. Do you have how do you have about
I'm fine.
Okay, good.
I do.
We live in a world where there's this thing about time, not enough time. I'm overwhelmed. I just can't make time. And then there's, oh my God, we have a panic attack. I'm not making fun of it, but the things that's happening to us, because one, we're disconnected from nature, and nature has its own timing. If we really pay attention to the Plantcestors, it may help us. What do you believe, what do you think we need to understand, embrace, appreciate about timing nowadays? Because we're going through a major shift, and the only thing they're talking about is what's happening, generally speaking, in the mainstream media, is the war, politics, and all the other stuff. They can't talk about this conversation because they can't. We haven't evolved to that stage where we can have this conversation in the news. What do you think people need to know and remember about timing in this cycle of time, especially through the eyes of nature?
Thank you. Wow, I love your questions. This is fabulous. This is food for me, right? To be able to have a conversation like this and have questions like this be directed at me. So I'm in deep gratitude. One, there is no time. We can sit and just kind of move with that a moment, let it marinate. There's books I can recommend, because we all need a book, right? The Holographic Universe. So that's one reason we can deal with them 4,000 ancestors plus some, and the other spirit guides who want to talk to us. There is no time. Yes. That's why the story of Jesus can still change a person's life today, because if it only existed back then, why are we talking about it now? And yeah, wow, that's a big one. There is no time. If you really understand that at your own place of understanding, you won't be in a hurry. People are manipulated. One, there is no time. As we understand, the construct of past, present, future is not really that. It's more than that. Two, people are manipulated through the ideas of time. I remember in the 80s where people who had briefcases and business cards could pretend to be business people, and they had day planners. They write things down. Everybody wasn't doing that. I remember on Sundays when banks and stores were closed, if you didn't get your stuff together by Saturday, Sunday, you just had to stay home and deal with it. But I've noticed that now over here, things are open 7 days a week. You can buy a house, a car, get drunk, whatever you about, God forgive me. On Sunday, you can just roll out. And so there is no day of rest. And when COVID hit, the awareness of people and everything shut down, and I was doing interviews similar to this about it. People call me out. What do you see? What do you think? That we needed a time out, a collective worldwide time out. We had this built up to a frenzy of running around in circles where everybody, even the person who's, retired after 20 years of working at the bank, needs to check their calendar now. I remember when the people who checked their calendars were folks who were, in business or industry or levels of education. Now everyone has taken on a celebrity status. We're all just so busy. Let me see what I can do. Can I squeeze you in? And even when I don't want to live that way, folks come at me to create busyness in my world. So I'm not a celebrity. I'm an ordinary person, and I intend on honoring that. But folks create busyness in how I conduct my life. It's no longer a simple one step. I'm going to sign my lease. It took 4 visits to the office to sign my lease. They made it busy. Well, come back now. Come back later. We'll send you the link. Like, people are just, things that should simplify our life, like computers, have created more busyness. So I think there's a running from the age of Aquarius, to use mainstream terms. I grew up with knowing of a musical called The Age of Aquarius, that we're shifting gears. We're shifting time, not timelines. Some people heard of the Maya calendar. There's all these mainstream drops in the bucket to say we're shifting. People who love money, we're shifting from the industrial age to the information age. So we're into biotech. Time is used to manipulate people, the conceptualization of it. And one thing I work with people who come to me for help with, if they're really serious about, getting it together, you got to understand the calendar you're on is set up for business. We think today is Tuesday, July 26th, and look at the time. This is set up for business, for civil reasons. Each religion has its own calendar, or each spiritual path. Ifa has one, the Buddhists got one, Islam has one, and it doesn't say it's July 26th. The Hebrew one, the Jewish people got one. When Christians fall up and down, it's pagan, everything is pagan, they're running from paganism. And I say, okay, but it's Tuesday, right? How come it's not named Luke, John, Matthew, or Mark? If you're running from paganism, do you know? Yeah, thank you. I can see that. Who named this day of the week? Monday is Moon Day, right? Friday is for Frega, the German goddess. What? Well, that's different. How is it different? If you really are about it, be about it. That's where I come from. There are different calendars. Know what calendar you're following. Know what you're about. Ecclesiastes, for those who need that book, says there's a time for everything. It really is. They're trying to wake you up. Like, some people start a business and it fails, and they say, I don't know why it wasn't. They say it. I guess it wasn't time for it, but they don't hear it. Like, there's a time to start businesses. Hebraic astronomy is so vast and interesting, but we don't get to hear about it because we've been taught spookism. Be scared of the moon. Don't pray to the moon. I'm like, what are you talking about? A farmer can't plant tomatoes in December in Iowa and think they go grow. Of course they look at the moon. So one hack, the new word is hack. I encourage everyone to read or look at the Farmer's Almanac, because it's the most mainstream, non-threatening thing that you can get, that people don't think you're a witch. If you come up with the Farmer's Almanac, they sell it at Walmart. You can open it, and people don't do this and go get a torch and set your house on fire. So get the Farmer's Almanac. Why does it have the moon phases in there? Why does the Bible say Rosh Chodesh? The new moon is when God sends visions to his sons, the prophets. Why is that there? Remnants of understanding how the stars move and our relationship to them tell us the best times. They indicate the best times for marriage, the best times to plant a tomato, the best time to grow wheat. We wouldn't have any food on the planet if folks just randomly planted stuff because they scared to look at the sky. So time is being manipulated. Don't let it be manipulated against you. Step into time as a river, as a current, and understand you can row your boat, or you can get a power motor, or you can just float on it. But don't let time manipulate you. People who think it's too late for them to do something, or they have to wear this outfit because it's in style right now. Got to get it, because everyone has one now. I have clothes in my closet that's older than these people, and it all comes around. I have clothes from the 80s. They're back. Yeah, I'm that age, everybody. They're back. Don't believe the hype. Don't let somebody in Paris you never met tell you got to have these shoes. And that's a simple way to step outside of the time manipulation paradigm. So time is being manipulated in ways that have us thinking that something is happening, or the revision of history. Learn for yourself, seek the truth, get a farmer's almanac. It's okay.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
you won't be burned at the stake. And learn the calendar of your religion. If you don't know that your religion has a calendar, write me. I bet I can help you find it on Google. Your religion has a spiritual calendar. That's where we get holidays from. There's a certain time to celebrate Easter. Why does it change every year? And it's not about them bunnies and them eggs, y'all. Okay. So why do these things change? There's a reason why we why, is a renewal coming forth. You can time your spiritual renewal to the renewal of the universal space we're living on, this ball of dirt circling the sun, and you'll see different results. And if you just decide right now, I'm going to do it, work with the moon. When the moon is getting smaller, that's when you get smaller. Give away stuff, purge your house, start that diet, do it when the moon is waning, after the full moon. These are simple things that have been hidden from people to keep them busy. They're just so busy and they can't get any progress in life. So thank you. I'll step down off my soapbox and I'll have a seat back here.
Well,
I hope that covered
it did. I don't want you to step down because I love soapboxes. They're the best. I get to see myself on them. Dr. Akbar said, excellent. The mastery of time is this understanding of time. Thank you. It is. And Kwali said, okay. And Brother William said, yes.
Okay.
I'm going to have to, after this, we're going to talk, and I need to book an appointment, another session with you for an interview, because I know we just happened to make this happen just by chance. You know, you said, I'm free from now to the 1st of August. I'm like, my show is on Tuesday. He said, yeah, I'm free from now to, I'm like, that's only one Tuesday. Okay, can you do this Tuesday?
Yeah, of course.
Because I want us, I want us to have a conversation. Maybe next time we do it, we have a conversation. We'll talk about loneliness and neediness. Because that,
can I say a little bit?
Sure.
I know we're going to come back about it.
I know. I bet the listeners are like, I'm so glad she said she want to say a little bit. How can they bring that up and then want to end the show?
Oh, that's the best way to end the show to me. COVID was magical in the bringing people to a full stop to hear themselves and to hear those feelings speak. Because when you're too busy, you just can't, you don't have time to deal with loneliness. I'm busy. But COVID stopped all that. I have so much more to say about the spiritual significance of COVID. We're in a 10-year cycle and COVID was the appetizer, right? There's more to come. And loneliness.
We heard that, but go ahead.
Okay. It is a 10-year cycle. I think it's on one of my, I think it's on my YouTube channel, but I have it out there. You can listen to okay, back to this. I'm branching, but we're in a 10-year cycle. We're only in year 2 of it, 2022. Loneliness is a deep response to a lot of stuff we are all running from. And when it shows up, she desires to be heard and listened to. And it seems as if part of this switching of epoch, or going from one cycle of existence to another, because all the great cultures tell us we're shifting right now and have been in shift for some time. And that didn't just start today. Loneliness gives us a moment, I think, to listen to and hear what is happening that doesn't fulfill us anymore. And I don't know if any of you have experienced this, but I can experience a feeling of loneliness now when I have the very things I knew 10 years ago would have me not feel lonely. Like loneliness is a breathing, it's an intelligent, we think of it as a feeling, but I'm going to take our feelings to another level of conversation to open it up, that these feelings are speaking to us. They're telling us something. And most folks, to make it short and to end this show right now, are running from loneliness like they're running from a robber. It's like they're being mugged by loneliness. They're doing everything they can to avoid being caught by loneliness, just running. And I say, stop and turn around and say, what's up? What you got for me? Okay, loneliness, what's your message for me? That's kind of how I live my life. Like, okay, I'm not on the track team. What we running from today? What we go do? And that's why I like some of the modern rap. There's a lot to say there, but a lot of these young brothers and sisters are like, okay, what's up? What we gonna do with this? We can't run. You can look to our urban areas in America, for sure, and in Jamaica too, and the Caribbean, and Niger land. What am I talking about? I'm into. Okay, there's a lot of young folks saying, "What's up? I ain't running no more." Okay, so what's up? What we gonna do with what we got? Because we ain't running. There's nowhere to run. You can't run from loneliness. Have you ever tried? You look up and it's sitting right next to you. Loneliness don't go nowhere. It's right. It's like the OGG. And I know my American accent and took that someplace else, right?
Well, you did
The
good. OGG, yes. Shadow, spirit. Yeah, that was good.
Shadow, man. And lastly, I noticed the young people. I love TikTok, y'all. The young people on TikTok are talking about doing shadow work, and I'm fascinated by them. I love watching their little 90-minute videos, and they're talking about things when I was their age. I was sneaking around learning about loneliness is part of what some people would think of as the shadow work. And I want to reclaim the darkness as being beautiful. We were conceived in darkness. We lived in darkness and water for 9 months. So when I hear people preach against marine spirits, we were a marine spirit. I mean, just we come from the water. You know what I'm saying? So I want to reclaim the darkness as it is in the biblical text. First there was night and then there was day. That's how the days
feminine.
The divine feminine is here, baby. She ain't going nowhere.
She ain't going
Mama
nowhere.
out of bubble gum. When she come through, she may have to have that belt in her hand, but we need to understand why, right?
Yes.
So I want to reclaim loneliness as part of that darkness that is not necessarily evil or bad. It's I have a whole article I wrote about it many years ago. Don't be afraid of the dark. That there's something in there that is a divine crucible of creation and expression. And you cannot have a baby be born and made and live for 9 months in the light. It is in the dark and it's submerged in this beautiful oceanic experience. So for those people who are afraid of marine spirits, we can talk about that next show. I understand their fear. I know why I think I understand a lot about why people are afraid of the dark, but it's in the darkness that loneliness finds its food. And loneliness is seeking to be fed, and it's not fed by more people, a new relationship, a new outfit, losing 20 pounds. That ain't loneliness. Is like, I love her because when she shows up, she demands that I sit down and face her. Hey, you gotta face her. And so I want to open up the conversation for our next time. By his grace, we're together again to dive into loneliness as also deserving the same love and attention we give joy or happiness, whatever that means to people, or abundance.
Yes.
We got to quit running from the dark and really just dive in and, kind of wiggle with it a little bit. It's all right. It's okay.
Yes.
We all come from the dark.
That's right. If we run from the dark, we don't get to appreciate the light because they go hand in hand. You're like,
they do.
Okay, we take it for granted.
They do. So that's where I like to talk about loneliness. It is our friend. It's the friend that may show up and we weren't dressed and our house ain't clean and we don't know if maybe we need to go get some more paper towel, but she's there for us and not against us. And let's see what she has to say. And maybe the people who come to the next show will be able to tell us some messages from loneliness because they won't be so afraid of her. And neediness is, man, loneliness and neediness, they're Beijing. They just kind of roll together. It's beautiful.
That's right. They're Beijing twins, that's for sure. Because I remember, I want to share this comment, and then there's a quick question. I say quick question. We already had this conversation, but we just knew this was going to happen. I remember when Prophetess Mary had this conversation with me many, many years ago. I was in a funk. I was struggling. And she showed up in my life. She became a lifeline. And, I'm a truth teller. After several days, I was thinking about her, but I didn't want to bother her. And so we would send a message on Voxer. I don't use that anymore. That's so old school. And I remember saying to her, I didn't want to sound needy. I didn't want to come. And she laid into me lovingly. What's wrong with neediness? And I'm like, damn, you made me fall in love with neediness. Because at first I was running from, get away from me. I don't know you. She broke it down. I was just like, wow, I never thought of neediness and loneliness. And I was able to embrace that. And it was very transformative for me. I want to read this comment, and then there's a question. This is a comment from New Jays. And what I'll tell you, Prophetess Mary, you shaking things up. New Jay does not comment on shows. She would say, Ade, hey, Ade at the beginning, and then she gone. She talked to me later. She said, excellent. Enjoyed today's conversation. I discovered some years ago through Spirit that plants will run folks right up out of a space who are not in that space for one's highest good. Yes.
That's right. That's right, New Jays. Preach.
Everything is energy. So Candy said, on the opposite of loneliness, what about when we are constantly bothered by people who don't prefer to be around or interact with, who we don't prefer to interact with?
Beautiful. And we'll pick this up next time with Brother Ade's permission. But to answer in short, you're attracting that. You're magnetizing to you what is speaking to you. That's a really quick 1 minute, less than 1 minute answer. But I'm attracted. There's things around me. I mean, I wish I could tell you. There's things around me that I'm looking like, Lord, have mercy, what we doing up in here together? But I understand, the moth is attracted to the flame. See, many women like yourself have this vibration of healing that they haven't cultivated or been trained to do. Men have it too. You have these folks coming at you, telling you their problems. You don't know them. You sit down trying to read your book. They confess to you at the Greyhound bus station, a mega bus, on the airplane. You're like, do I have a collar on? I don't have on that outfit she got on. Why are these people telling me all this stuff? It could be that your calling has found you, and that if you step into your calling more formally, when people come around you that you don't want around, you may be seeing them personally, like, I don't want to be their friend, whatever that may mean for you. But if you had a professional understanding in the secular world, if you're moving as a pastor, imam, Ianifa, Babalao, or Ia Larisha, or Mambo, Hugan, I can name a whole bunch, Tata, Yayi. If you're moving like that, then you may understand, oh, this person is reaching for me, and the as a vessel of, Brother Ade would say, the light, a vessel of healing for them, not to be their woman, their girlfriend. And that may be the only thing they know. Like, I want to be with this woman. I want her to hear me. I want to be her bestest friend or her man or whatever. But in truth, it could be that part of them seeking that grace and gift that is put in you before you were born, and that grace and gift is going to radiate. If you don't recognize it, spirit don't care, because it recognizes spirit. So people sometimes come to you for that word of healing, that word of prophecy, whatever it is, to move them forward. And you may be thinking, oh, I don't want her to be at my baby birthday party. She just, I don't want to hear that story no more. Why she keep calling me? Well, it's because you need to think about doing your work, baby, just a little more directly. Like, know when people come over, they're looking for that word of healing, maybe not you. Because in a consumer society, I'm gonna be quick, we're capitalists, right? We're taught to consume things. So they want your time, they want your energy, they want to sit in your space and eat your food, because that's the way we understand how to transform ourselves in capitalism. But I give you another model where people don't have to consume, communion, where this is my flesh, this is my blood, is built into the religion, right? So people want communion and they want to eat you. You don't have to sacrifice yourself for them, but it is ingrained in our culture. So don't be so hard on them, because that's all they know is communion, wafer, blood, grape juice. We go eat Christ. He's here to save us. Let's eat him. Cannibalizing your God is that's another podcast. So they may want to cannibalize you too.
We got like four punch shows that we gonna do from this, about 4 different ones.
I'm telling you, like the whole cannibalization of deity. I want to eat the divine, have it in me. So they come to you and they do want to consume you. But if you get with some elders, they can help you manage that energy in a way where they don't eat you. Because as they say, come down off the cross, we can use the wood. You don't have to emulate that part of the Christian walk, honey. You
I know that's right.
Step down. Okay,
Woo!
I'm done. I know. I know. Okay.
That's why I didn't write questions. That's why I just had topics of different things. I just say it. So when you said to Candace that she is attracted to this was her response.
Good grief. Yeah. We need to talk. We need to have a conversation. It's possible it's time for you to step more fully into your calling. That's why I try to avoid
that's exactly it.
It ain't gonna happen.
I try so hard to avoid them and wish they would leave me in peace.
No, they will find you, even if you
your peace is you stepping up, and then you find the peace in being of service and being in an alignment. See, when we resist it, we're like, what am I here to do? What's my purpose? Get away from me. Get away from me. But once we surrender, I get to do this work with people. Yes. And Kwali said, "There's some good old food today, Ade. Thank you, Prophetess Mary and Ade. Love all of this. My dear sister, I feel like I have waited like 2 years for this conversation.
Yeah,
and I'm glad we actually milked it. That, because there's no time, literally. But in jest, we don't have to worry about time. This is my platform. I'm not answering to anybody. It may be too long for other people to listen to. I don't care. Those who have ears will hear.
Those who have eyes will see.
They'll see. Right. It's all here. Whew, my dear sister, anything you want to share with our listeners that you're up to, that you maybe your website, I got that up here, I'll flash that up, or anything that you're doing that you want listeners to know, and anything, or maybe a last word.
Thank you. I would like to share the verse that guided me today, which was from 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 3. If one loves the Most High truly, she or he is known by the Most High. And that means being recognized by him, which is oddly so apropos for this. So if you love the divine force that holds the universe together, that force then knows you and responds to you. That which you are seeking is causing you to seek. And I want to share that with the audience. I am working in the doctoral framework now. If any of you are healers, Brother Ade, or herbalists, I would love for you to reach out to me, because as a cultural preservationist, we just lost a major force to be reckoned with, who was based in Augusta, Georgia earlier this year. She did tremendous work, and I would love to culturally preserve our work in a way that's respectful to our spiritual paths. So that is part of my doctoral journey. Please reach out to me if you are that person, or you know that person, the lady down the street who sees the kids come by and she read people when she pass out candy. Their stories need to be, I feel, recognized. We're not going to send people to the woman's house. We're going to make sure that she doesn't fade into obscurity.
Yes.
Because people outside of our culture document our work, and then we end up going outside of ourselves to learn about ourselves, which was a big part of my journey. And I would like to preserve our stories just as they're told by that person. I don't need to dress it up or doctor it up. They just need to be able to say it out loud. So I welcome the stories, your experiences with spirit, with plants, and their healing and their influence in your life. Thank you all so much for coming out to be a part of this magical moment that we were able to share. And I am so honored that you invited me back. I graciously accept, and I will send you the dates that I'm available. And I appreciate your comments, the ones that you spoke or typed and the ones that you didn't speak. I appreciate all of that. Thank you. Thank you, Brother Ade. You are so wonderful. The anointing you have in your mouth and your words and your voice is such a blessing. So thank you for allowing me to step into this circle of love. I appreciate it.
Like they say, no, thank you. But I'm going to receive it. I'm going to receive it and then thank you as well. You've been a blessing. Thank you so much. That's right. It's just thank you. Thank you for the work you do. Thank you for your courage. That is even beyond courage now, because you live from a different place. It's a responsibility to being the mouthpiece for God, for the divine. And that's what I love about you. And anytime we talk, as we've been talking all morning, all day today on WhatsApp, it's like, food for my soul. I love you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, my dear sister.
Same here. Right back at you.
Yes, indeed.
Take care.
Peace and blessings.
Blessings, everyone. Thank you.
Life is good and it's getting better. I love you. I bless you. I appreciate you. And I thank God for you. Thank you, Dr. Akbar. Thank you, Candice. We are grateful for you too. Yes, 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 yes. Woo, so much is happening in me. But anyway, real quick, join me tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. No, 6 p.m. Pacific. I'm trying to do it from memory and do something else. 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and 2 a.m. UK time with my dear friend Ricky Byers, which is right here. So feel free to join us for Soul Fulfilling. And also, if you've been inspired, maybe something woke up inside of you today and you're just like, I want to do something. I got something to say. And you're looking for a podcast host. If you need some more information, you can send me an email. Go to lifecoachade.com. But before you do that, go to their website, libsyn.com, libsyn.com. Go to their website, check it out. If you read what they're offering and it works for you, make sure you use my promo code ADE. Make sure you use that, because then you get at least a month free and maybe longer. I love you. I bless you. I appreciate you. And I thank God for you. Check out this link. My next event on Saturday is representing your ancestors. What's in a name, using your name to tap into deep wisdom and also help you integrate the wisdom. Like today, if you can check out, connect with Prophetess Mary, the things that you received that was mind-blowing, mind-shifting. Don't just let it stay there. Incorporate it, embody it, use it, speak it, share it. If you need help, you can go to Prophetess Mary's website, which is Africana Cosmology.com, or if you feel drawn to me, lifecoachade.com, so you can integrate the truth. You're welcome, April. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. There was something else I was going to say. I was going to give you the link for my event this Saturday. Go to bit.ly/your ancestors 4. bit.ly/your ancestors and the number 4. Register and let's grow together. Keep showing up. Multiply the consciousness, and whatever you do, however you do it, make sure you continue to be you. You're here to be who you are. Peace and blessings.
Be who you are. Let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. Yeah, when we unite. Oh, we unite. Yeah, when we unite. Yeah. Welcome here, love is welcome.